ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। सर्ववेदान्तसिद्धान्त गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। Hari Om, salutations to all. So we are seeing the expression of realization by the disciple. 493 is the last verse that we saw. Naham idam, naham adaha, abhi ubhayor avabhasakam param shuddham. I am neither this, I am not that, neither subject nor object, but I am the illuminer of both. Bahyabhyantara shunyam purnam brahma dvitiyam eva aham. There is neither inside nor outside, because it is only with reference to the body. I am that pure consciousness Brahman, which is Purna, which is complete, and that is non-dual. That alone am I. The 494. It doesn't have a meter. Nirupamana, nirupam, nirupamam, anaditattvam, tvam ahamidam, idam iti kalpana duram, nityanandaika rasam, satyam, brahmadvitiyamevaham. This is nirupamam. I am unparalleled, because infinity can be only one. There is no parallel to infinity. So even if we want to give any analogy, always that analogy will have some limitation, because it will never be equal to the original. Even in Bhakti Shastra they explain like that. Tulsidas' Ramayana, Tulsidas' bhajan also is beautiful. The bhajan which is there, Thumaka chalat Ramachandra bhajat pajaniya. The Bal Rupa Bhagwan is being described, at how the Lord walks, how he has anklets in his tiny feet, how his face is. All those things are described beautifully. And then Tulsidas ji says that there is no comparison of anything in the world which can describe Bhagwan. So how is the face of Bhagwan Ram? It is like the face of Bhagwan Ram. Can't compare to anything else, not like the moon or not like a beautiful flower or nothing. So in Bhakti also they explain in the same way, that the glory of the Lord can be matched only by the glory of the Lord. There is no other description possible. So nirupamam, unparalleled. Anadi tattvam, it is beginningless. Absolute reality is causeless. Nothing else has produced it. It is beyond cause and effect. So when we say Adi, beginning, so beginning refers to the cause and then the effects which come out of that. Anadi means there is neither cause nor effect. It alone is. Nirupamam anadi tattvam tvam aham idam adaha iti kalpana duram. You, I, this, that. No such divisions are there. All these divisions arise when I arises, small I. I, then you, then this, near, that, far. So this distinction of I and you, this and that, all rises when this small I rises. When this small I is not there, none of these distinctions are present. Here the disciple has gone beyond the small I. And he says it is kalpana duram. It is beyond such imagination. I, you, this, that is imagination for the disciple now. Just think, for us it is so real right now. For us God is imaginary. We are to imagine God. For the disciple it has become ulta. God is very real. I, you, this, that has become imaginary. It is kalpana duram. See, that's what Ramakrishna Paramahamsa also meant when he told Vivekananda. Vivekananda asked him, have you seen God? He said, I see God. Yes, I have seen God and I see God more clearly than I see you. Which means what? This aham, the spurana which is there inside, aham, 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 the pure I, not the small I. That pure I is one's own true nature. And when one experiences that, that is much more real and that alone is real actually. So he says, I have seen God and I see Him more closely than I see you. Because you will come only after this small I rises. But the big I is there in spite of I and you. So that's the Vedantic understanding of what Ramakrishna Paramahamsa explained. For some time we may think that because he has had darshan of Mother Kali, he is saying, yes, I see him more than I see you. But it is actually the Nirgun Nirakar Tattva, the absolute which he is experiencing. So, Tvam Aham Idam Ada Iti Kalpana Duram. Then Nityananda Ekarasam. It is of the nature of eternal bliss and Ekarasa. No Navarasa. Meaning there is no plurality in that. Only one. Which is that rasa? Ananda rasa only. So Nitya Ananda Ekarasam. Satyam, it is eternal. Satyam here means that which is changeless in the past, present, future. Eternal. Brahma Advitiyam Eva Aham. Non-dual, that non-dual Brahman alone I am. Narayanoham Narakantakoham Purantakoham Purushoham Ishaha Akhanda Bodhoham Ashesha Sakshi Nirishwaroham Niraham Cha Nirmamaha. So this has nice analogies. Narayanoham. He says, I am Narayana. Who is that Narayana? Narakantakaha. Who has ended this hell. Literal meaning is hell. But the story meaning also can be Narakasura. Puranic meaning I mean. Then Purantakoham Purushoham Ishaha. I am Lord Shiva. Purantaka is Shiva. Shiva who has destroyed the Tripurasura. Purantakoham. Purushoham, I am the absolute consciousness. Ishaha, the Lord. Akhanda Bodha, unbroken knowledge. Aham Ashesha Sakshi, I am the ultimate witness. Nirishwaroham, there is no Ishvara above me. Niraham cha nirmamaha, there is no I and my in me. Means I am free from I and mine. So, see, when these things are said here, people feel, oh, this is blasphemy. How can Jiva be equal to Narayana? But the person who has experienced Brahman is beyond Narayana also. When we say Narayana here, it means Vishnu. Even if you say Mahanarayana, from whose navel Brahmaji comes out, then also it is correct. Narayanoham means I am that absolute Brahman, because that's what the student has experienced. Narayanoham. So people will feel, how can this person say that? After all, one is only a jiva. This is not blasphemy. This is from absolute standpoint. And we also know that the knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. So there is no question of that person's remaining separate and realizing the truth afterwards, after death. Here and now that person realizes absolute truth. Narayanoham, and very confidently he proclaims Narayanoham. There is no arrogance in this. This is a statement of fact. Arrogance is in saying I am the ego which is separate from Narayan. That is arrogance. To be in the ego is arrogance. To give up the ego is not an arrogance. To say the fact, what was said earlier, Satyam, to say the truth that I am that Narayana, there is no blasphemy in that. That's a fact. Each one will come to realize that only ultimately. From Advaita standpoint, each one is Narayana. So it's not that I am Narayana and everybody else is a Rakshas. No. All are Narayana only. Because the concept of all only disappears. There is only one absolute truth. That's it. That is Narayana. So Narayanoham. And what did this Narayana do? One of the things is Narakantakoham. So Vedantic meaning of this is Naraka means hell. And one who has ended the hell. Because till the person does not realize absolute truth, this body identification will make the person commit some sin, some selfishness, insensitivity. So based on that behavior, the karma phala which comes, one may have to go to hell. And hell is a state of suffering, sorrow, misery, pain. While living also, the life can become hell. After death also one can go into hell to exhaust certain papa karma. So this understanding has to be very clear. Both these are facts. We have done this earlier also, that in our culture we believe everything has three levels. One is the cosmic level, that is called Adi Daivik. Second is the social level, where we say is Adi Bhautik, the beings around us. Third is the internal, Adhyatmic. So hell also we have to see that it is from three standpoints. Adi Daivik There is a plane of consciousness where the jiva experiences the karma phala and one will go through sorrow and suffering. No, 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 I don't believe in that. Are, in the dream state we experience or not? How real is dream? Sometimes one goes through such terrible dream, when one wakes up, one is sweating, panting, puffing. Why? Because it is real. One went through and in that one felt the pain. We only imagine in terms of gross manifestation. But the subtle plane of consciousness exists. There is no question about that. People may not experience that, so-called scientifically, you can't prove that externally, but it's a state of consciousness and one will experience. So Adi Bhautik level, Adi Daivik level, there is a plane of consciousness called hell. And the jiva goes. According to its karma, the jiva goes up and down. Swarga also, Naraka also, there are other lokas also. The jiva will go according to its karma to any of these lokas, to any of the yonis also. Now, going into another yoni itself is hell. Forget going into hell. To be reborn itself is a hell. How much pain one has to go through in the womb. So, Adi Bhauti, Adi Daivik level, there is hell. There is no question. As long as I think of myself as a jiva, that hell is unavoidable. Adi Bhautik level, the beings around us, if they start troubling, they start causing pain, they start irritating, then in the society becomes hell. When there is violence, when there is so much of chaos and there is no peace, there is no order, there is no justice, anarchy is there, or even if anarchy is not there, there may be a semblance or appearance of democracy, but there is complete mismanagement of everything, no growth, no nothing. So that is hell at the Adi Bhautik level. Then hell is at the Adhyatmic level. False identification with the BMI makes us sorrowful. Pain of the body is my pain. Confusion of the intellect is my confusion. Emotional disturbance of the mind is my disturbance. That makes life hell. Right now, COVID may be hell for some people. Not to those, not necessarily those who are affected. They may go through certain challenges and pain. Not to be insensitive to them, but there are some people who have everything going well for them, still they feel I am in hell. I can't do this, I can't go do there, I can't go there. Irritated because subjectively disturbed. So Naraka means all this. One who destroys all this. So Narayanoham Narakantakoham. So one meaning of Naraka is Adhyatmic level. When we go beyond body, mind, intellect, then we are able to realize the absolute truth. The cycle of birth and death stops. So going into another womb stopped. That Naraka one is freed from. Going into heaven and hell, that also stopped because all the karmas got burnt away. That we saw earlier. Adi Bhautik level doesn't exist for this person now. Same way Adi Daivik level also doesn't exist. So that's the absolute meaning of realization of Brahman. The personification of this in terms of a story is a story of Narakasura. So Narakasura means the Asura who is identified with the body, which is our ego. The story is that Narakasura is the son of Mother Earth. Bhumi Devi's son is Narakasura. And he has become very arrogant, cruel, violent, and Mother Earth herself is ashamed of this son of hers. And she goes to Vishnu Bhagavan saying, please protect me. I can't bear the weight of this, my own son. He is so terrible, and he has captured 16,000 princes. And he was about to do some yajna where he is going to offer all of them. And he would become immortal. He has even driven away Indra and all of them from the heavens. So the Devatas also went, Bhumi Devi also went, all of them went to Bhagavan and said, please protect, you are the protector. So Bhagavan comes on his Garuda, and with Satyabhama he comes. And there's a fierce battle that happens, and finally Narakasura is killed. Now all the 16,000 princes, they take refuge of Bhagavan as Krishna. So when they come, they say that this man captured us. Sita ji went through the Pariksha, Agni Pariksha, and then the society still did not accept Sita ji. That was in Treta Yuga. And Bhagwan Ram sent her away to Valmiki's ashram in the forest. Where will society accept us today? 16,008 of us captured by this one fellow. We can't go back to the world. Nobody will accept us. And we can't live here. We take your refuge. You please protect us. And you are the Lord of the universe. So they take refuge of Shri Krishna. And Krishna Bhagavan marries all of them because there is no other choice there. So people criticize, oh, Krishna had 16,008 wives. He did not have because he wanted some pleasure. They surrendered to him. And the symbolic meaning of that is what Gurudev says, very beautiful. 16,000 thought varieties they are. They have surrendered to the Lord. They were under the capture of ego, Narakasura. When this ego is destroyed by Bhagavan, all the thoughts, they surrender to the Lord. They all become divine. So it is the mind of a Jivan Mukta who is free from the ego. Any thought that rises in the mind of the Jivan Mukta also will be only selfless. So the ego is destroyed. So that is this Narayanoham Narakantakoham. That I am that Narayana and I am the one who has put an end to this Naraka. See, in this meaning, in Gurudev's commentary, he has given one nice meaning. He says Nara is Brahman and Ayana is glory. So Narayana is one whose glory is the whole universe. Naraka is hell. Narakantaka is one who has ended his hell. One in whom there is no trace of sorrow. Living at the body level is to be in Naraka. The criminal, the devil who creates hell for one is the PFT. One's own, not somebody else's Narakasura. The ugly devil with the horns and tail is the inflated ego. When he is destroyed, the Atman is attained. So both meanings one can take, the subjective meaning, the Puranic meaning. And in short, it means the what Gurudev said, beautiful line. Now, one who has ended his hell, in whom there is no trace of sorrow. No trace of sorrow. That person is this. Narayanoham Narakantakoham. Purantakoham Purushoham Isha. I am that supreme Purusha, that Isha, who has destroyed this Tripurasura. Tripurasura story is very nice. The Tripurasura lives in 3 cities. He did a lot of penance and he got a boon from Brahmaji that nobody can kill him, and if at all he has to be killed, these 3 cities must come in alignment at a particular time. At that time, if somebody shoots an arrow and destroys these 3 cities, then only this Asura will die. That is called Tripura Rahasya. That is not Tripura Rahasya. Tripura Rahasya means how Bhagwan Shiva killed him. Now this fellow from these 3 cities is living simultaneously. And these are floating cities. And from the top, he is in like a spaceship type of a thing. Floating city, if we have to just say. So from there he goes on raining all kinds of destructive things and, disturbing people, torturing them. He goes up to heaven also, goes down, he goes to the earth. Anywhere he comes and he will destroy. So people were very upset. They pray to Bhagavan. And if Brahmaji keeps giving all these boons. And Vishnu Bhagavan and Shivji have to go and protect everyone. So Vishnu Bhagavan they go to. Vishnu Bhagavan says, no, go to Shivji. He only can do this. He is the destroyer. No, go to him. So they went and they told him, this is a special boon in a special time. Once in many thousands of years, this moment will come when these 3 cities will align. And when they align, then you have to shoot. And an ordinary arrow will not kill because he is very powerful. So what they say is, Shivji he had his chariot. And his bow is Pinaki. Pinaka is the bow and he is holding that bow, so he is called Pinaki. The name of Lord Shiva is Pinaki. His bow is called Pinaka. And in his grand chariot, he has a bow. He is holding the bow and he has a quiver of arrows. But you know who he makes arrows? So they say in one version of the story that the bow is made from Mandar mountain. And arrow is Vishnu Bhagavan. Vishnu Bhagavan is the arrow. And when the alignment is happening, the Devatas tell Bhagavan ki now this alignment is happened. It's just about to happen. So Bhagavan, don't miss that moment. You have to shoot. And one shot. Vishnu Bhagavan goes and pierces all the 3 of them. Tripurasura dead. And the example given there is just like how does the cotton burn? If you, with a matchstick, you light this fluffy bunch of cotton, it will just burn like that very fast. Just like this cotton burns effortlessly and it just becomes carbon. In that way, all the 3 cities just got burnt. Just imagine, Shivji is the warrior. So there was no long battle, nothing. at the right time when these three cities aligned, this Tripurasura had no idea also that he is going to be killed. Suddenly one arrow comes in the form of Vishnu Bhagwan and finished. All the three cities burnt, ashes, gone. That is called Tripurasura Vadha. Tripura Rahasya is the Vedantic symbolism of this. Who is the Tripurasura? That is our ego. The ego is floating in the three cities. What are these three cities? Waking, dream, deep sleep. And in this waking, dream, deep sleep, this ego is floating. Waking state also misery is there. Deep sleep, dream also misery is there. Jiva experiences. Waking state to Jiva makes other people's life miserable. Sometimes in dream also one makes other people's life miserable. One has a habit of kicking and sleepwalking, sleep talking, anything. So many problems are there. Waking also, dream also, deep sleep you may say, but body, mind, intellect is unmanifest. But avidya is still there. And that avidya, as long as it is there, that is the root cause of all sorrows. So this jiva is one, is like this asura who keeps going from one city to the other. Shivji is the seeker who contemplates on the all-pervasive reality, pure consciousness. That my nature is that pure consciousness. I am not this waking, dream, deep sleep ego. This waking, dream, deep sleep ego is Vishwa Tejas Prajna, what we have seen earlier. So this Vishwa Tejas Prajna, I am not. I am that Vishnu, supreme reality, pure consciousness, all-pervading reality, the Narayanoham. That is my true nature. So steadily contemplating on that, a moment comes when these three align, meaning one transcends these three in Samadhi Avastha. And Samadhi Avastha, one abides in the self. So all this Jiva Bhav and waking, dream, deep sleep, all of them just burn away like cotton burns. Effortlessly it will just burn away. So Tripura Rahasya is the transcendence of the identification with the waking, dream, deep sleep. If waking, dream, deep sleep is difficult to understand, take it as body, mind, intellect, because body, mind, intellect they create misery for everybody in the world. There is not only physical torture, there is emotional blackmail, emotional torture, and intellectual persecution also. All three levels, this body, mind, intellect, this asura which is working in these three, creates hell for people. And this ego needs to be destroyed. So Shiva is the seeker who fires this arrow of Vishnu Bhagwan. Otherwise it looks very awkward, you just think about it. Vishnu Bhagwan is the arrow and Shivji is holding his bow. He has placed Vishnu Bhagwan on it and he is shooting Vishnu Bhagwan, and then these three puras are destroyed. One feels what weird stories these are, but these are the stories of the highest knowledge, depicting the process. If one says it's a process, there is no process to realization. The process is only to destroy avidya, and when avidya is destroyed, one realizes it was never there. That's the strange part. So this is the highest Vedantic knowledge which is being depicted in the form of Puranic stories. Now many people get stuck in all that, whether it is real, does it happen, or is only imagination. So why get stuck in any of those? Vedantic interpretation is most beautiful. Apply it, transcend the ego. Anyway, the whole world is a mithya. What prevents Bhagwan from doing any of those leelas also? Nothing prevents. And even if it did not happen, so what? The knowledge of it one has at least taken and one has understood It is BMI is the one in which this Asura, Tripurasura goes on living and creates hell for everybody. That Asura has to be destroyed. So invoke Shiva Tattva, invoke the auspicious resolve that I want to realize my true self, I want to get rid of this ego, and contemplate on that absolute Brahman. And Shiva is also the Guru Tattva. Get the knowledge from the Guru, have the auspicious resolve that I can reach that state, and continuously contemplate on the absolute reality. At a time will come when this waking dream, deep sleep will align and one will go away to Samadhi. Align meaning one will transcend the attachment to the three egos, waker, dreamer, deep sleeper. This ego, one drops, goes to the absolute self. So that is what he is saying here, Puranta Koham. I am that Shiva, I am that pure consciousness. Even as Shiva, as manifest form also I am that. And as the pure consciousness, Nirgun Nirakar Tattva also I am that, he says. Puranta Koham, Purushoham Ishaha. Akhanda Bodhoham. See, in this commentary, Gurudev has explained this very nicely. So you can read this. That, Puri means a town in which people live. Individual lives in three states of waking, dream and deep sleep. When these three worlds are transcended, one enters the state of selfhood, also called the Turiya state. It is the fourth plane of consciousness and hence he is a destroyer of the three Puris. At every moment in our life, we live in one Puri, destroying the other two. We are not able to destroy all the three at the same time. Lord Shiva, the embodiment of auspiciousness absolute, is the one who has accomplished this feat. He is the supreme meditator. He am I, Shiva am I, Shivoham. So that is the meaning, beautiful meaning. This is called Tripura Rahasya. So the student is saying this, I am that Shiva, pure consciousness. I am Narayana. I am Narakantaka. I am Akhanda Bodha. I am unbroken knowledge. This knowledge of things is broken and it is limited. Unbroken knowledge means that consciousness because of which everything is known. The objective knowledge has breaks, but the illuminer of this objective knowledge is consciousness. That doesn't have any breaks. That remains as it is. Like the scene can change. So the scene has limited duration, but the screen is there at all times. That is Akhanda Bodhoham. Ashesha Sakshi. I am the ultimate witness. There is no witness above me. There is no other witness. I witness everything else, but there is no witness of me. Then Nirishwaroham. I am without Ishvara. Meaning there is no Lord above me. I am the Supreme Lord. Nirishwaroham. Nirahamcha Nirmamaha. There is no I in me and there is no my in me. So this I and my is called Maya. So in one way it is that Maya is not there in me. And this I and my is what creates the samsara. So Maya is not there, samsara is not there, this pure consciousness alone is. Sarveshu bhuteshvaham samsthitah jnanatmanantarbahirashrayah san bhokta cha bhogyam swayameva sarvam yadyat prithak drishtamidantaya pura. So he says, Sarveshu bhuteshu ahameva samsthitah. In all the beings, I alone am. How strange is that, no? When we are that all-pervasive reality, the illuminer in every being, we don't want to assert that state or live in that state. We want to assert, no, I am not in all beings, I am only in this one. And then this wants more and more. This small I wants more and more. Arey, you are already in everything. No, that I know, that I don't want to be. I am this one little thing. But now I want more money, more wealth, more love, more recognition, more and more and more. But you are already the infinite. Oh, that may be. That's called delusion. Sarveshu bhuteshu ahameva samstitaha. He says, I alone am in all the beings, in all the forms. Jnanatmana antar bahirashrayasan. And he says, my nature is that nature of knowledge absolute. And he resides in all the beings as knowledge, as the illuminer. Jnanatmana sarveshu bhuteshu ahameva samsita. Antar bahir ashrayasan. I am the ashraya, the support, inside and outside, both. Inside the Atma is the enlivener of the body, mind, intellect, and because of that the BMI are functioning. So it is a support in that sense. The illuminer, the enlivener of this BMI. Outside it is the substratum of the whole universe, which is what we call as Brahman, the changeless substratum on which all the changes are appearing. That changeless substratum is that supreme. And both this Atma within, Brahman outside are same. So he says, Jnanatmana antar bahirashrayasan. Then he says, Bhokta cha bhogyam swayameva sarvam. I am only the Bhokta and I am only the Bhogya also. The enjoyer and the enjoyed, both is me. You see, this is one observation. As long as the Bhokta feels that I am different from the Bhogya, and as long as the enjoyer feels I am different from the enjoyed, this enjoyer will want more and more enjoyment and subtler forms of enjoyment or new forms of enjoyment. Why? Because the Bhokta thinks that Bhogya is a different thing and I need to enjoy the Bhogya to feel happy. That is called Bhoga Buddhi. That is the Bhoga Vritti is that I am happy only when I enjoy some object. And that is very deep in the psyche of the individual. So this attitude that I need something for my happiness, that makes that person extrovert. And then all the attachments, they will start. Then all the other anger and jealousy and greed and passion and all those will start because one thought of oneself as Bhokta who is different from Bhogya. And you know, when one thinks of oneself as a Bhokta different from Bhogya, then what happens? Many times one just considers even people as Bhogya. See, that Bhoga Vritti makes a person even look at others as Bhoga Vastu only. Objectification will happen. So objects also one will want to consume and enjoy. People also one looks at with that attitude only. What can I get maximum out of this person? Use and throw attitude will come. One doesn't think of people as people. With sensitivity one doesn't treat. One thinks they are Vastu for my enjoyment. Ultimately that's how the ego works. If they are useful to me, I keep them, otherwise chuck them. I don't care. So exploitation happens because of this difference between Bhogya and Bhokta. But if one sees that Bhogya also is me and Bhokta is also me only, then where is the question of exploitation? Because both are me. Here I am thinking of myself as only a Bhokta and Bhogya is different from me. So I don't care what happens to the Bhogya. Bhogya exists for my pleasure and enjoyment. Now that is what creates exploitation. So if people really want peace in this world, this sense of dualities from psychological standpoint has to end. Because all forms of discrimination are based on this, the difference between bhokta and bhogya. Think about it. Animals, are they meant to be eaten? They are life. You say no, plant also has life, but that is such an irrational argument. You don't have to destroy all plants to eat them. There are many fruits and vegetables which fall off. You can take that and eat. And also that they don't have the nervous system and all those things which communicates pain the way in which it will communicate to an animal. That developed nervous system is not there in the plants. Their senses are not that much developed as it is in an animal. So where it is unavoidable, there one eats, that's a very different issue. But where it is avoidable, why do you want to eat? Because that is tasty. That's the conditioning. And the strangest part is this human being doesn't learn the lesson only. COVID already is going on, pandemic is going on, world is suffering because of that. How many millions of people, and so many have already died. And still these people don't stop eating animals. Anything that moves, they are still eating. And now the threat is bubonic plague. This bubonic plague is supposed to be much more intense than this corona. Why all these are coming? Because people are not sensitive enough. They are eating anything, whatever they feel like, and cook in different ways and put this and put that, and Hare Ram. Bhokta and bhogya. That bhoga asakti makes a person be insensitive to the plight of other beings and exploits and then enjoys in that. How can you eat non-vegetarian food with such kind of a delicious taste and such enjoyment when life in us and life in that is the same? There is no difference. As human beings, one should be much more evolved, but this bhoga vritti is what spoils. See, animal also has bhoga vritti, but the animal's bhoga vritti is not affected by greed. Our bhoga vritti is affected by greed. That we are problem is that animal kills because there is no choice for the animal. One which is made as carnivorous will kill and will only kill that much what it wants to eat. It will not kill and keep hoarding. And you will not kill. If there is a lion who has eaten enough and who is full, and the lion will sit near the tree. Even if a deer comes, there is no problem. The lion will not go and kill the deer because the deer is there. The human being will do that. Why? Greed. So this bhokta and bhogya, this difference between bhokta and bhogya creates all exploitation in the world. And as one becomes more and more sattvic and more sensitive, one should understand what is pain, what is sorrow of all the other beings, and try to come out of that and live more in the sattvic way of life with minimum himsa that one can cause. So if one is able to live in that way, then this bhoga asakti goes. Because tamo guna and rajo guna, they create this bhoga asakti. In fact, bhoga asakti is tamasic more. Karma asakti is rajasic. The seeker has to give up these two to come to jnana, to be able to abide in the knowledge steadily. One needs to come out of bhoga asakti and karma asakti. And that will also happen. So they both go hand in hand. The more one lets go of rajasic and tamasic tendencies, more one will be eligible for knowledge. The more knowledge one gets, reflects, and one is able to live at the higher plane of consciousness, the more this bhoga, asakti, etc. will go, and this division of bhokta and bhogya will also go. because bhogya is not separate. That one consciousness only is appearing as the bhogya vastu also. Does anybody have a bhoga asakti towards one's own body? Let me eat my finger. I'm very hungry. Let's eat. And let us cut this finger and cook it nicely and put this sauce and fry in this way and then eat. Does anybody do that? No. Why? Because the sense of difference is not there. Though they are different, each finger is different. The whole body is different, each part is different. But nobody thinks of this body as bhogya vastu. But the other things I see as bhogya vastu, chicken leg and chicken breast and this and that and arey baap re. So why is that happening? Because I'm seeing it as other than I. Here there is no sense of other than I. This whole thing is I. So if this whole thing is I, then though there is Dvaita, it is still Advaita. So the bhoga asakti doesn't arise only towards this body. Now extend that to the world. If the whole world is seen as my body, how will there be bhoga asakti? It will not be there. So the more I see this vision of oneness, my bhoga asakti goes. The more my bhoga asakti goes, the more I abide in the vision of oneness. And hence, he says here, this division has now gone. Bhokta cha bhogyam swayameva. I am only everything. Where is the division between bhokta and bhogya now? Bhokta cha bhogyam swayameva sarvam. I am all this. So this small I from this it has given up this identification. There is only one I, that alone is. Yadyat prithak drishtam idantaya pura. What was seen as this and not this before, meaning this is the body and this is not the body. So that division was seen, this and not this. All that is gone. In bhokta is gone, bhogya is gone. Division is gone. In deep sleep, there is no division of bhokta and bhogya. Still there is Paramanand. Samadhi, no division of bhokta and bhogya, that's why Paramanand. The waking state, bhokta and bhogya division comes, then one is stuck. Then this bhokta wants new types of bhoga. That's the saddest part of this whole thing. Even after exploiting the bhogya vastu so much, the tripti will not be there to the bhokta at all. This bhokta will want new methods of enjoyment. And to what extent the body will be getting harmed, but the bhokta will still want it. So there will be sugar problem, but still the person will want to eat sweet. Arey, body is getting harmed, Baba, your sugar level is going beyond control. Why are you eating? It's okay, little bit. That little bit doesn't stop. So even if the body is getting harmed, this bhokta has so much of bhoga asakti that one cannot stop. One goes on. See, I'm giving only example of food. It can apply in everything. What I see, hear, taste, smell, touch, what I speak, how I move, what I touch, what I hold. So all my hands, my feet, my everything, with all the 10 senses, when we are functioning, this bhoga asakti is there in all the 10 senses, unfortunately. That's why Shankaracharya said, no, in Vivek Chudamani only he said that every animal, those 5 examples he gave, Kuranga, Matanga, Patanga, Meena, Bhringa, Nara, Panchabhiranchitakim, these 5 animals, each of them are attached to only one sense and they meet their destruction. But what about human being who is attached to all the 5? And there though he said only 5 senses of knowledge. We are attached to 5 senses of action also. Now COVID time we can't go out. So then that karma asakti which is there, the feet want to go. The hands also have attachment, the feet also have attachment, speaking also has attachment. All the 5 senses of action, meaning all the 10 senses, they have such deep asakti. Now what to do? It doesn't matter whether it is harming the body, it is hurting the exploited, hurting the object of enjoyment. One just enjoys. That's such a delusion. What enjoyment is that? Hurting yourself and hurting others. But that is the saddest part, that pain and that enjoyment born out of pain is glorified in this world. Baap re baap. What a delusion that is. They have new ways of torturing oneself to enjoy. Baap re. They find a great kick in that. And there are things and equipments and various methods available how to torture oneself and enjoy. Anyway, this man, this seeker has gone beyond all this. Go beyond all types of bhogya vastu, attachment to bhoga. This bhoga asakti only is gone. Does it mean that the person doesn't enjoy? That person only truly enjoys. Absolute bliss that person enjoys. What torture we do to ourselves and what torture we do to the body and even whatever other pleasure we get is also momentary. And here is the seeker who has experienced absolute bliss. Just think about this state, how glorious is that and what one is running behind. Compared to that state, this will not even be like worms crawling in the muck. It won't even be equal to that. And that is what one is attached to right now. The pleasure of crawling in muck as a tiny little worm. So bhokta cha bhogyam swayameva sarvam. There is no division of bhokta, bhogya, nothing. There is one consciousness alone. Mai akhanda sukham bodhau bahudha vishvavichayah utpadyante viliyante maya maruta vibhramat. My akhanda sukha ambodhav, in me who is unbroken ocean of bliss, bahudha vishva vichayah, many waves of universes are rising and falling. Vishva vichayah, vichi means wave. Bahudha, many. What today's so-called science is saying, there is not one universe, so the word universe is not applicable, it is a multiverse, there are many such worlds, not just many galaxies and many solar systems, that is one universe. One universe means that is universe. Like that there are many, which our Vedanta said thousands of years back. And when Vedanta says that, people say, what is the proof of that? It's all poetry. When science is saying, tell them to show the proof. Can you go and see? That is also through their intellectual deduction only they come to that. It is not that some scientist has gone and seen the other parallel universe and then come back here. It is an intellectual deduction. It is so beyond a point, it cannot be perceptible at all. It will be in the form of understanding, intuitive insight, all that. So here he says, I am that ocean of bliss in which many universes rise. Utpadyante viliyante. They rise and they fall. Just like waves, they rise and fall. Maya maruta vibhramat. And by what? Because of this Maya. Because of the delusory power which is Maya, universes as though are created and destroyed. Utpadyante viliyante Maya maruta vibhramat. So this is what the student is experiencing. Akhanda sukha ambodhi. So if I give up this distinction of bhokta and bhogya, I am not losing out pleasure. I am not losing out anything. I am gaining the absolute bliss, which is my true nature. Not even gaining, I am discovering that. But why are we not able to live in self-control? Because our thinking is that I have given up or I have to give up. No, I don't want to come to Vedanta, I don't want to come to spirituality because I have to give up, because they tell you give up all these pleasures, sense enjoyment, life will become so boring, so I can't come to spirituality. Okay, be stuck in that. In that, what am I giving up? Akhanda Sukha Bodha, Sukha Ambodhi. That I am giving up. I am giving up infinite ocean of bliss for some petty paltry pleasure crawling in the muck as a worm. That pleasure I am holding on to, giving up the infinite. And when Vedanta says, "Arey, drop that, you are that." No, I have to give up. My life will be so boring. How Maya dilutes. That's called Maya Maruta Vibhramat. Maya only deluding. So that's how one lives. How Maya keeps us bound, completely bound. And one has left. Akhanda Sukha. Ambodhi, one has dropped that. What is the price to be paid? You just think. Those petty paltry pleasure, if I give up to experience that Akhandananda Sukha, what have I given? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. From business standpoint also, it's a profitable deal where investment is less, return is infinite. Capital required is very less. It is actually insignificant. Return is not some 4%, 5% per annum. Return is infinity, full stop. Nothing less. That. So, for today, we will stop here. Any questions, anybody?
Namaste, Swamiji. This is not about Vivek Chudamani.
1 minute.
This is,
Yes.
hello. Yeah, this is about our Siddhabadi camp. A lot of us have purchased our tickets also. So, how likely are we to have that camp?
I can decide only by August end and tell you. At the moment, I can't decide anything because the camp is camp is in September end.
Yeah.
So I don't want to jump the trigger right now. It is easy to cancel at any point in time.
No, I was thinking maybe you can just shift it to Pune, to Kolwan. No.
Not, that's what I'm saying. I don't know as of now because none of our ashrams as of now are open.
Okay. Okay.
So that's why I can't take a call now, but we will see in time. That's how the situation pans out. Accordingly, we'll have to figure out.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.